Hello there. So I've battled chronic fatigue, bone-crushing exhaustion that made it impossible for me to keep up with my friends, fellow students, and coworkers, doing only the bare minimum that I could get by since I was about 12 and a half years old. The interesting thing about my fatigue is that it began after I caught and got over pneumonia, which is, from what I'm researching, atypical from everything everyone else deals with. When I was 15, though, I did catch mono, which is the most common trigger of chronic fatigue. And then my fatigue did get significantly worse after that. And like I said, this is usually when chronic fatigue sets in for a lot of women. It's in the 4 to 6 months after a mono infection when the exhaustion just doesn't go away, because that monovirus itself has triggered a stealth infection, usually the Epstein-Barr virus. I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome when I was 15, and I was told that there was nothing anyone could do for me, at least from the allopathic medicine standpoint. I did go to a psychologist at one point too, because the doctors thought that might be the cure. Didn't work. And this is all still true today for a lot of women. They get sent down the absolutely wrong paths. Western medicine sends them to, perhaps gives them that answer of you're too young or you're fine, nothing's wrong, because the labs come back okay. Some are given pharmaceutical antiviral drugs. Antidepressants are big. Also, a low thyroid medication, even if the thyroid isn't low. But when you're given the wrong medications, this is actually going to make the physiological problems that are creating the fatigue in your body worse, because the toxic load increases in your overall body, which is one of the reasons that we do get chronic fatigue symptoms. And for me, I didn't want any of the drugs. As frustrating and defeating as my chronic fatigue was, I just never wanted any toxic drugs to cover up my system. I wasn't about band-aiding my exhaustion. So before I go on and I tell you all that I did to overcome my chronic fatigue, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm Dana. I'm the owner of My Body Healthy Holistic Nutrition. I am the creator of the Energy Hormonal Rebalance System, which is the holistic natural health program for women battling chronic fatigue or burnout. Inside the program, I teach and coach my clients how to eat for higher energy, including how to intuitively choose the best foods for their overall health goals. I teach them how to develop very specific lifestyle habits that are needed to recover from chronic fatigue. And I work with them to adjust any mindset structures and limiting beliefs that are keeping their bodies stuck in a state where more fatigue is created. So if you would like to learn more about the program, send me an email. I've posted my email address in the description of this video, so you can reach out to me anytime if you have questions. All right, so what did I do to overcome my chronic fatigue, this disease that everyone says there's absolutely no cure for? Now, I'm not going to say I cured my fatigue. I have basically put it in remission for the last 8 or so years. So we're told there's nothing you can do to put it in remission. I am living proof that you can. So I'm excited to share with you everything that I did. First one, I figured out what foods were triggering my fatigue. So I went beyond just simply eating healthy, because the diets that have generally been handed out or dictated as healthy often contain a very small amount, but still significant amount of problematic foods for women with exhaustion and burnout. This includes all the fad diets, keto, paleo, what have you. So taking a clean, healthy diet, I spent a few months tracking everything that I ate and everything I felt and experienced, and discovered that for me, it was wheat, especially, dairy, big time, and then, of course, not surprisingly, any type of sweetener like sugar or what is this stuff? The stuff that you put in artificial sweeteners. Those were my biggest triggers. Aspartame, such a big one for me. I also learned that eggs, if I eat them too often, can be a problem. They're a funny food for me because in very small quantities, they boost my energy. Too many, they plummet it. Also, I discovered that I feel my best when I eat chicken, steak, or turkey rather than relying on plant-based protein. I love plant-based protein, but I've learned that if I skip meat too often for too many days in a row, it just exhausts me. So my body needs animal protein to be its happiest and healthiest. I also discovered that I need higher carb meals, 2-3 meals a week. Usually I will have more carbs on the weekends just to make up for this. And it's usually gluten-free whole grains, lentils, or beans. So over the years, I also realized that I could still enjoy my favorite foods, including gluten-free pizza and chicken wings. Plus, I drink coffee and I sometimes have wine, if my diet was on par with supporting my body and my energy the rest of the time. So when my diet is like on point for high energy, eating my favorite foods once in a while doesn't affect me. If I let it that fun food portion slip into more and more of my meals, that's when my energy plummets. So in my experience, there is no reason to ditch all of your favorite foods so long as the rest of your diet is good. 2, I became very selective with supplements. My very first attempts at fixing my fatigue definitely involved a lot of supplements. I mean, hey, quick and easy, right? I bought energy supplements from Walmart, anything that promised higher focus and drive. I bought a whole bunch of powders from MLM companies, a lot of them that had like caffeine or kava or were thermogenic that were promising, of course, as long as they promised more energy, I bought it. I tried ephedra pills, energy drinks, which just made me feel so awful. Between 1998 and about 2010, you name it, I probably tried it. But what I learned later on, after I'd wasted so much money on these crappy supplements, was that the supplements marketed for higher energy were all wrong for my chronic fatigue syndrome, my burnout. I did switch to some adrenal adaptogens later on for a few years, many of which actually didn't help at all and made things worse. A few did work, that's for sure, but some of them were actually more of a problem. I had a few actually completely mess up my sleep, and so I stopped them, but that was really frustrating for, about 2 months before it hit me that that was the problem. It was finally when I realized the root causes of my chronic fatigue, that my stress response was overworked and undernourished, and my chronic fatigue syndrome is actually an autoimmune disease because it turns on the immune system, creating chronic low-grade inflammation. That's when I learned, that these were the root causes, and I learned that they were directly impacting my energy and how it's produced, that's when I finally knew what supplements to actually choose. So I had been like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something would stick, darts in the dark, whatever you want to call it, and nothing was working. But once I actually knew what to focus on, why I needed to choose certain supplements, that's when things did change. So my supplements actually change fairly often, but my regular ones, the ones that support my energy best, are a really good multivitamin mineral complex. I cannot stress this enough. Everybody needs one of these. I take a greens powder because of the concentrated level of greens in it. It's really nourishing for your entire body, but it helps give your liver a lot of its detoxification nutrients, which helps improve overall energy production because it cleans out so much crap. NAC, or N-acetylcysteine, coenzyme Q10, zinc, and then vitamin D3, or sunshine. With chronic fatigue, it is all about reducing your viral load from the Epstein-Barr virus, which 90% of women have. And then, of course, renourishing those adrenals to help strengthen your stress response. I don't need it as much anymore, but I used to take magnesium malate and magnesium glycinate. These are helpful for the adrenals if you have a lot of stress in your life. Third thing I did was I slowed down and gave myself space and permission to rest. This was definitely a really hard one for me to do. And it took years for me to get there. A lot of pep talks happened. But when you're living with chronic fatigue or burnout, this step is so important. So I just started small. I started listening to my intuition, really. If someone asked me to do something and it just didn't feel right, I started declining them. I would choose only 1 or 2 evenings to enroll in a class or take a workshop or just be out of the house. I started saying no more often to overtime work, to requests from my assistants when it wasn't life-threatening or critical. And I started to put myself first. I set a lot of boundaries up with my work and my personal life, and I began asking for help when I needed. I remember setting this boundary with my now husband when we had first started dating, where he was always at my condo, and I had to say to him, I'm like, look, it's not you. I still like you, but I can't spend every evening with you because it's exhausting me and I'm going to burn out. I don't think anyone had ever said that to him. And he looked really hurt. I'm like, it's not you. It worked out really well. Finally, I had 2 or 3 nights just to myself because that's what I needed. Or I wasn't present with him when I did hang out with him and friends. So setting those boundaries was really, really helpful, albeit difficult. The fourth thing I did was I reset my circadian rhythm by prioritizing sleep, but also setting up an appropriate sleep schedule that aligned with what my hormones need. I go to bed by 9 o'clock. I read for about an hour, and I'm asleep by 10 o'clock, most nights anyway. I get sunlight exposure first thing in the morning if it's sunny out. If not, I have a artificial Lux light book that I use and sit beside my desk for 30 minutes in the morning. I am trying really hard to be active every single morning. At least I do something, whether it's a walk, lift weights, dance, just something that moves my body. Just something to get the blood flowing, right? Gets those nutrients moving throughout where they need to go. And 5, I fixed my mindset. Well, I'm working on fixing my mindset. It is by no means there, but I've done a lot of work on this, and this was huge. Like, this was a big part of my entire energy healing journey. I thought my energy was great after just the nutrition and the rest, but wow, after I learned how to adjust certain thought patterns and realized I had limiting beliefs and these thought patterns that were keeping me stuck in exhausting, emotionally fatiguing ways of thinking. Once I started to reframe those, totally energy skyrocketed, mood went up. My stress load itself just dropped. And so I can take on so much more now and not get fatigued. So this was game changing. Because your mind, it has the ability to make you sick. And when you have chronic fatigue or burnout, man, your mind is whirling a mile a minute. You're anxious about your health and what others will think of you. You're confused. You're frustrated by your lack of memory and your focus and energy. There's just so much happening on top of your busy life and any past trauma or mental roadblocks that your mind will just keep your entire body stuck where both stress and inflammation are high, which directly, of course, impacts the health of your energy production system in a huge, bad way. So yes, mindset work is huge. The work that I've done to adjust my own limiting beliefs has been, like I said, game-changing. So this is a fairly high-level, complete overview of what I've done to really transform my energy from like the average of 1 to 2 out of 10 a day to average 8, 9 out of 10 on any given day. So many women, they focus on the supplements first because it's easy, and they stay there because, again, it's easy. But that is such a small piece of the puzzle. So I hope that this gives you a better idea of what all needs to be focused on when it comes to overcoming chronic fatigue and burnout. It's not as simple as taking a supplement, getting a medication, exercising. Well, exercise is another whole other topic. It takes time, patience, and practice to learn all of the supportive natural health habits that need to happen in order for you to transform your life from exhausted to energized. The good news is, once you do transform from exhausted to energized, you can take on some of the things that you may not be able to take on now with more ease and grace, compassion. So it is absolutely possible to regain your energy naturally, usually in as little as 6 months, with the right support and the right coaching. When you have that proven system, which is what my energy and hormonal rebalance system is based on, you'll get there so much faster than spinning your wheels with supplements or a meal plan or a fad diet or the wrong exercise and self-care advice. I wish I had had a coach to help me through my journey, because it took me 20 plus years to get here. And now my clients are seeing 130% increase in their energy within 6 months. So if you're interested in learning more, if you are, ready to take that next step and find out if we might be a good fit, if the energy and hormonal rebalance system could work for you, what exactly that means for you and your lifestyle and your energy journey, then use the link in the description of the video. It's below here, and book a call with me. And like I said before, please feel free to send me emails with any questions.